The Chicago Undercover Heart. Elena Ramirez stood in the drizzling rain outside the run-down motel on the edge of Chicago's South Side, staring at the man mopping the cracked concrete walkway. His shoulders were hunched, his once thick black hair now thin and streaked with gray. The janitor's uniform hung loose on a frame that had lost too much weight, but those eyes, dark, sharp, haunted, those were unmistakable. It was him, after 8 years. Michael O'Connor, her husband, the man who had shattered her world overnight. She clutched the umbrella tighter, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might crack a rib. The last time she'd seen him, he'd been a decorated detective with the Chicago PD, broad-shouldered and laughing in their kitchen, teasing her about burning dinner again. Then, one morning, she woke up to an empty closet, divorce papers on the table, and a bank account drained dry. The news called him corrupt, a dirty cop kicked off the force for taking bribes from the mob. She'd believed it, because what else could she believe? Mike? Her voice came out barely above a whisper. He froze mid-mop. Slowly, he turned. Recognition flashed across his face, followed by something raw. Pain, maybe. Regret? Then he shuddered it all away. "You've got the wrong guy, ma'am." His voice was rough, like he hadn't used it much. Elena stepped closer, rain dripping from her umbrella onto his worn shoes. Don't do that. It's me, Elena." He glanced around nervously, as if someone might be watching. "You shouldn't be here." "I've been looking for you for years." Her throat tightened. "Why did you leave? Why did you let everyone think you were—" "I was," he cut in sharply. "I was everything they said. Now go home, Elena." He turned back to the mop, but she grabbed his arm. His skin felt cold, even through the sleeve. "You destroyed me, Mike. You left me with nothing. I deserved an explanation." He pulled away gently, but firmly. "You deserved better than me. That's the explanation." She wasn't letting him go this time. Not again. Over the next weeks, Elena kept coming back. She brought coffee, sandwiches, excuses to linger in the motel lobby while he cleaned. At first he resisted, but slowly cracks appeared. He'd accept the food, he'd ask about her job. She was a paramedic now, working double shifts to pay off the debts he'd left behind. He never asked about himself, never explained. One evening in early spring, the motel was quiet. A storm knocked out the power, and they sat in the dim office lit by a single battery lantern. Elena finally broke the silence. "I'm not leaving until you tell me the truth." Michael stared at the flickering light for a long minute. Then he spoke, voice low. "I never took a bribe in my life, but I made everyone believe I did." He told her everything. 8 years ago, he'd been assigned to internal affairs, quietly. The brass suspected corruption in the powerful police union leadership. Millions in pension funds were disappearing. Kickbacks from construction contracts, drug money being laundered through union events. The deeper he dug, the uglier it got. The head of the union, Deputy Chief Harlan Graves, wasn't just skimming. He was in bed with the outfit, Chicago's organized crime syndicate. Graves had cops on payroll, judges in his pocket, even a U.S. attorney who looked the other way. Michael gathered evidence for months. Wiretaps, financial records, photos of payoffs. He was close to handing it all to the FBI when his cover started slipping. A rookie he'd trusted got drunk and bragged. Suddenly, his tires were slashed. His partner got jumped in a parking lot. Then the worst threat came, an anonymous call. "We know about your pretty wife, detective, the paramedic, works nights at Mercy Hospital. It'd be a shame if her ambulance had brake problems." That was the night everything changed. He couldn't go to his superiors. Some of them were compromised. He couldn't run and take her with him. That would confirm she was leverage. So he made the hardest choice of his life. He staged his own fall. He leaked fake evidence suggesting he'd been on the take for years, planted money in his own accounts, let himself get caught on camera accepting an envelope. The department had no choice but to fire him publicly. The news ate it up. Hero cop turns dirty. Graves and his crew relaxed, thinking the threat was neutralized. Then Michael disappeared, sold everything, paid off as much of their debt as he could anonymously, and vanished into the city's underbelly. He changed his name, his look, his life. Became a ghost who moved from shelter to shelter, odd job to odd job. All to keep her safe. "Why didn't you tell me?" Elena's voice broke. "We could have fought together." He headed his shake. "They were watching you. If you'd known, you'd have looked for me or acted differently. They'd have known I was still a threat. The only way to protect you was to make you hate me." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I did hate you, for years, but I never stopped loving you either. It tore me apart." Michael reached out, hesitated, then brushed a tear from her face with a calloused thumb. "I'm sorry, Elena. More than you'll ever know." But the story wasn't over. Over the next months, something shifted. Michael had never stopped collecting evidence, even from the streets. He'd photographed meetings, recorded conversations from alleyways, sent anonymous tips to honest feds he trusted. But he was running out of time. He was sick. Years of poor nutrition, stress, untreated injuries from a beating he'd taken early in his exile. It had taken its toll. Doctors at a free clinic told him quietly, liver damage, early cirrhosis, maybe a year left if he was lucky. Elena refused to let him die alone. She moved into a tiny apartment nearby and started helping, carefully. They rebuilt the evidence together. Old files he'd hidden in storage units under false names, new photos she took with a burner phone. She contacted an FBI agent she'd met through her paramedic work, someone clean, someone who'd been chasing Graves for years. The plan was delicate. They couldn't move too soon. Graves was running for police superintendent now, untouchable on the surface. Then came the break. A union accountant, facing prison on unrelated charges, flipped. He confirmed everything Michael had gathered. With Elena's help, Michael got his full dossier to the FBI. Years of work, airtight. The raid happened on a crisp autumn morning. Federal agents swarmed Graves' home, the union headquarters, half a dozen precincts. Graves was arrested in his driveway, still in his robe, screaming about lawsuits. The news exploded. Massive corruption scandal rocks Chicago PD. Deputy chief indicted on RICO charges. Elena watched it on TV in her apartment, hand over her mouth. Michael watched from a hospital bed. He'd collapsed the night before, internal bleeding. She'd found him on the motel floor and rushed him to the ER. Now he lay pale against white sheets, IVs in his arms. She sat beside him, holding his hand. "You did it, Mike. They got him. All of them." He managed a weak smile. "Took long enough." The trial was swift. Graves and 12 others went down. Racketeering, bribery, money laundering. Some cops lost pensions. Others turned state evidence. The union was cleaned out. New leadership brought in. Michael never testified in person. He gave a deposition from the hospital, face obscured for his protection. The Edge understood. The man had already paid a high price. Winter came early that year. Snow blanketed Chicago, softening the city's hard edges. Elena pushed Michael's wheelchair through the hospital garden one afternoon. He was thinner now, but his eyes were clearer than they had been in years. "I used to dream about this," he said quietly. "You and me just sitting somewhere quiet. No running, no hiding." She squeezed his hand. "We're here now." He looked at her, really looked, for the first time in almost a decade. "I never stopped loving you, Elena. Not for a second." "I know. I know." Michael O'Connor passed away 3 weeks later, peacefully, in his sleep. The department held a quiet ceremony, off the books. A few old friends who'd known the truth attended. They buried him with full honors in a small cemetery outside the city. Elena stood by the grave as snow fell softly. She placed a single red rose on the casket, his favorite color. Then she turned and walked away, head high. The city moved on. Corruption scandals faded from headlines, new chiefs were appointed, reforms were promised. But in the hearts of those who knew the real story, Michael O'Connor never was the dirty cop the world had briefly believed. He was the man who gave everything, his name, his career, his life, to protect the woman he loved and the city he'd sworn to serve. And in the end, that sacrifice was not in vain. Justice had been done, love had endured, and somewhere in the quiet places of Chicago streets, his shadow still walked, watching, protecting, forever undercover in the heart of the woman who never stopped believing in him.